Imagine how different your life could be in a year if you committed to getting 1% better every day. This is the show dedicated to helping you improve your mindset, language, and behavior. Inspiring stories, practical advice, and damn good conversations. Here's your host, Joe Ferraro.
Listen, all my life I've heard this two-word phrase, and I heard you say it on the show recently, and I got to consider you my best shot as an expert. What is Feng Shui, and why do I need to know about it?
Oh my God, I'm so not an expert on Feng Shui. In fact, my definition of Feng Shui is it usually kills my deals. But you know, in general, it's energy and space, and it's placing things in the right placement. And it depends on how deep you want to go. When I was redoing my house, I actually hired a Feng Shui master who gave me a list of things to do, and I didn't listen to any of them because I was much more design oriented and I wanted what I wanted. The first thing he said is you need to put a wall up at your entry door to protect your money, and I listened, and of course that wall came straight down. And but you know, a lot of people listen to it. A lot of people, especially in Chinese and Asian cultures, really take it very seriously. A lot of times we have had Feng Shui masters come and just say this is not a good house or this isn't right. In general, you know, I think of Feng Shui as the very basic stuff. For me, space is really important. Living well is really important, and it's not about where you live or how much money you have, but it's just about, you know, living clean, keeping your space clean, keeping it free of clutter. For me, it's the little things that go a very long way.
Yeah, you didn't listen to him for another reason, I have a hunch too, because one of the words you say over and over in your work is intuition.
Yeah.
Follow your intuition. How do you define intuition in that sense, and how has it improved your work?
God, intuition has led me to where I am today. As human beings, we have a gut, you know, and I think we choose to either listen to it or not listen to it. But you know, that gut is the most important thing. And in life, we're filled with information, right? It's coming at us every day, every minute, every second. And what I've done to get to where I am is I always try to take a step back and just go, what is right for me? Because what's right for somebody else may be very wrong for me. And I do my best to listen to people. I always seek advice. I have coaches, I have life coaches, I have business coaches. I like to listen to what people say, but ultimately I have to make the right decision that I feel is right for myself and for my team and for my family. And sometimes it's contrary to what other people advise.
And if you're working with someone, I know we'll get to some of the leadership practices that you have with managing your team. If you're working with someone either on your team or as a client relationship, and their intuition seems to be steering them astray,
yeah,
what do those conversations sound like? Because you're someone who's comfortable with following it, and you may be working with someone who's not.
You know, it's funny. I actually teach it. I'll go in interviews trying to get hired for a house, and I tell clients to follow their intuition. And if that means that I'm the right person for them, that's great for me. But if I'm not, I'm okay with that as well, because their intuition is going to guide them to what they believe is the right decision at that time. And I think it's really, really, really important. And I think everybody's looking for coaching and advice and information. And the more you get, the better, because the more evolved your intuition will become, the better your decisions will be. A lot of the things that I've done in my life that have been benchmarks for my success have been contrary to what other people told me to do. And I'm so grateful for making those decisions today. I remember I was you know, at one of the most luxurious brokerages in the country, really. And I had a leadership role, and I was ready to make a change. And I ended up at a company that didn't have the same footprint, that didn't have the same name, that didn't have the same brand. And it was that very minute that my success propelled, because I took on the challenge of resurrecting something and making it bigger and better. And that was one of the pivotal moments in my career.
You mentioned interviewing, and I've heard you say that you interview against the same 5 or 6 people over and over again. So that's a big thread in your life, and saying that you're going to follow your intuition, whether you get it or not, is a big piece. But what do you do? Because you also mentioned winning and losing quite a bit. So What's the secret sauce to winning more than losing when you're being interviewed to be that high profile realtor?
Yeah. I think authenticity. Let me just turn off my phone. Sorry. I think authenticity is the number one key to success. I think owning who you are and being proud of yourself is what helps to win. I wasn't always like that. You know, when I was young and selling real estate at 17 and 18, I always thought you had to be a certain way, you had to look a certain way, you had to dress a certain way. And I was trying to live up to those appearances, and that led to a decline of success. It wasn't until I was really authentic with myself and I said, look, here's who I am, take it or leave it. You may not like it. I'm not for everybody, but I'm okay with that, was when I really started to see tremendous success. And I always say, like, no matter what your authentic self is, be proud of it. And if you're not proud of certain, we can't all be proud of every element of ourselves, right? Work to fix it. So today, when I go into meetings, I'm really proud of what we've achieved. I'm really proud of where we've landed. In 100% authentic form, feel that I am really one of the best, and know that I am one of the best real estate agents in the country. I have systems and a track record to prove it. And I believe somebody should hire me because of that. And that level of confidence gets you very far. But it wasn't always like that. And I had to work to get to that goal.
Yeah, it seems like there's that one step. If people are on that journey and then they're feeling growth, they're feeling breakthrough, to get over that hump. Do you remember a moment where you said, screw it, I'm going this direction? Or a moment where you made a conscious decision that what you see is what you get?
You know, I feel that I'm still working on it. I mean, I think people look at successful people every day and go, I want to be that person, or that person's figured it out. I think the truth of the matter is I'm still working on myself and I'm still figuring it out. I could tell you the milestones that changed. I think that when I was younger, I used to not be as authentic. I used to not, to be honest, I almost consider myself a liar at that time. If I go back 15 years, I felt like I lied to win a deal. I lied I told somebody what they wanted to hear. And I didn't just go in thinking what's right for this person, what's right for me, and are we a match? And the minute I stopped, I can't remember what the moment was, but I do remember talking to my life coach and I said, I don't like who I am right now. I don't like where I'm going. And I feel like I'm lying about things that I shouldn't. And she said, stop. Go the straight, go there. And the day that I did that, the day I walked into people and I said, look, you have a gorgeous house, but here are your problems. Here is why you probably won't get what you want. And here's what you need to do if you do want it, was the day that I did a 180 in my life, my business, my friendships, my relationships. And I did, I think going back many years, I don't think my persona was great in my industry. Today it is, because we are authentic to the truth.
And you managed to do something pretty remarkable. One of the taglines of the show is that you're telling some of the wealthiest people in the world what to do.
Yeah.
But I can't help, in watching the show, realize that it still has kindness behind it. You see reality shows that don't need to be named right now, where there's shtick in the truth. And I don't see that with you. You tell me if I'm on to something.
I think that everything I try to do is out of kindness. Every day, it's not just on the show, actually. Like every single day, we are telling rich people what they don't want to hear. We are having discussions about things that are real and honest. And I think it's my obligation to do that, because what I realize is if I don't know if I could say this on your show, but bullshitting people, or if I'm not telling the truth or being authentic, I am hurting people. And that has implications that could cost people not only millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, but emotional stagnation. And so we want what's right for people. We want to see people move forward. We want to feel that we're doing the right thing. And so a lot of times people don't want to hear it and people don't pick us. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, we know, or at least I know, I did what was right for them. And you see it on the show. We do it every day even harder in real life to be honest. And real estate is my job, but I deal with people I've dealt with everyone from royal families from Saudi Arabia and Qatar to presidents of countries, to CEOs, to celebrities, and everything in the middle. And what's really weird and kind of complicated about what I do is most of these people are the best at what they do, or the richest or the smartest. And so all of a sudden, to give these people advice, sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't, sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But it's always tricky. And I always have to say, follow your intuition, because you got to where you got to. And I'll tell you my expertise, and it's up to you to listen or not. I was just on the phone with a billionaire worth $7 billion right before you. He thinks his house is worth 30. Not going to say the name. And it's worth 21. And I brought him an offer at 23. And I said, look, you're not going to do better than this offer. And I know that that's the case. He's not listening to me, and he's just going to have to learn his way. But again, he's so successful that the stakes on that particular house, it won't make such a big difference whether he wins or loses. There are other people that would have different implications on that.
Yeah, you said you've trained your eye and your ear over time to be from a seller's perspective. That caught me off guard. I don't know a lot about real estate, but you have someone that you're representing to try to sell the property, but it's more the seller perspective.
Actually, the buyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me say that more a little better in English. You would think it's the seller who you're representing, but you flipped it to be the buyer's eyes. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So it took me a while to do this, but I would go into houses, and you would want the way that we make our money is through selling houses. So I would go into houses, and every house I would go into, I would want. So I would tell the seller, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Your stairs are so beautiful. The color. I would look at all the good, because that I was in that mindset. And then you would get signed on the listing, and a seller would hire you. And then all of a sudden you'd show a buyer a house, and you would notice the imperfections of the house through the buyer's eyes. And all of a sudden I would sweat, and I would say, oh my God, I just overpriced this house. I overlisted this house, and I told the seller the wrong thing. And so I had to train my eye to look at it from a buyer's point of view and say, here are the flaws. Here's what's wrong. Here's why. And I now tell my seller that, so that I could save them down a path of I could help them not go down a path of failure and misery, but we already caught the challenges and tribulations of what that house would be, so that we price it right, we stage it in a way that makes sense, and we get it ready to sell in a way that makes sense. And ever since we did that, actually, I've noticed a huge level of success as well.
On every episode of Listing Impossible, you have the moment where you come in and say, we need to fix this, we need to stage this. And recently I heard you say that to spend $50,000 of staging and upgrades could result in $1 million worth of return value. Yeah. Explain that math to me.
That's a little, look, that could be high. That could be high. But the general theory is, at the end of the day, you have to spend money to make money. Bottom line, right? People don't view houses in that way, but the truth is you have to spend money to make money. And if you're not, and this is part of what I teach, which is live well for yourself, not to sell a house, but live well for yourself. Because when you do go to sell that house, you're gonna have to do it anyway. So today's buyers look for done product, they want beautiful design, they want beautiful architecture, and they want what we call a curated lifestyle. And so that's what they're looking for us to do these days at all price points, actually. And so what I tell sellers is, live well for yourself. Keep it clean, keep it organized, keep it painted. Don't wait to do those upgrades for somebody else. Do it for yourself, because then you're going to live well. You're going to live the benefit of that. And when you go to sell it, you're going to actually make money. But yeah, we've seen really extreme cases of paint and stage really give people $1 million more, no joke. And so, yeah, I think.
What's that work there? Psychology? Is it literally, oh, this now looks like a different product I expected to see?
I think buyers today don't have vision. Even as one of the top agents in the country, I go into houses that don't feel good, and you don't know why. People don't know why something feels good or why something doesn't. People aren't pinpointing unless you're really honed in on that specialty. So it's all about the experience and the emotion, and people want to walk in and be like, wow, this feels great. And so when I started in the industry, this wasn't this way, but today we are designers, we are builders. I mean, we literally have to look at every square inch of what we're selling and be like, is this curated the right way? Granted, we're at a very high sales price, but even if it's not a high sales price, I tell people the lessons are the exact same.
Speaking of lessons, you need to spend money to make money. It's something that we've been hearing for decades.
Yeah.
And yet, when you hear it, I at least want to bristle back and say, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. What implications do you see with that maxim away from real estate? Where can people benefit that in their own lives?
So you're talking to like the cheapest person in the world. Like I used to hold on to every dollar because, you know, my dad was in the trucking industry. My mom was a school teacher. I didn't have this life that I have today. And so, you know, I grew up with a very, very, very different reality. And so in my younger years, I would hold on to every single dollar like it was life for fear of losing that dollar. And I still say live smart and live careful and don't live beyond your means. But what I learned was the more that I gave out, the more that I got back. The bigger a bonus I gave to one of my employees, the more money I made. The bigger my payroll, the more money I made. And so to now, in today's moment, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every almost 2 weeks, honestly, and every month. I do know what we spend, and it's a lot. But I started to really enjoy the process of that check. I love writing out those checks because I feel like that's my way of giving back. I'm able to pay my employees. I'm able to pay my staff. I'm able to pay vendors. And through all of that energy builds energy, right? And so the more I put out there, the more I get back. And so now we love to just put a lot out there because the universe, I know that sounds a little weird, the universe, but we feel like the universe brings it back in return. And so I think the bottom line message is about generosity and really not, you know, the people that hold up, you know, my experience, especially is like, you know, selling houses is sales. Same thing as any sales job, right? The people that are holding on to every single dollar are the people whose income stream have stopped and are freaked out about the future and are not just releasing. And I've seen it backfire so many times. I've seen people try to save $1 or not sell a house for a couple $100,000 and lose an entire house because of that mentality. And so I guess generosity is key.
I'm talking with Aaron Kerman, quite simply one of the best real estate agents in the world. $7 billion in sales at time of air. I'm sure it's climbing, Aaron. When I hear that number, I know part of it is a data piece for the marketing machine. I know that. But I wonder about goals, right? Yeah. Because I've had a pleasure of interviewing a lot of authors. And I think some authors talk about process over product.
Yeah.
And then some people say, if you can't visualize it, you can't achieve it.
Yeah.
I'd love to throw the word goal and goal setting at you and see what's the Aaron Kerman philosophy when it comes to goals.
A really, really, really funny question. And for me anyway, because this sounds awful, but it's real. I never really had a goal other than I wanted to be busy and I wanted to be successful. And I never set a goal for myself. But I knew that I'm a workaholic. I love to work. I never said I need to make X or I want to sell X. I just want to be good or great at what I do. Funny enough, I started dating a guy who is a banker. And he basically is in the banking business. And one day he says to me, "What are your goals?" And this, by the way, was not that long ago. This was about a year ago. And I said, "What do you mean, what are my goals? Like, I don't know. Like, somebody's going to call me when they call me. Somebody's going to sell me when, you know, somebody's going to want what they're going to want, and I'm going to put it together." And he goes, "Well, what are your team's goals?" And I said, "Babe, my business is very random. You know, some months we make X, some months we make Y. It's very random." And he said, "That is insane. You need that." He goes, "That is," because he has this banking mentality. He goes, "That is the worst thing I have ever heard. You need to come up with your goal." And so I said, "Okay." So we said, "Look, we want our team to sell this number, and I want to sell this number." And it changed my life. And by the way, this was just at the beginning of the year, pre-COVID, right after COVID, actually. because once I set that goal in my head, I had something to like work off of. I was like, am I behind? Am I in front? Where are we this month? And it's been a game changer for me. And ever since he had that conversation with, I'm obsessed with goals. I talk about it. It's what I tell everyone I need to see it, on my team. If they don't have them, I think it's a big mistake. And it's been it's been a fun challenge for me. I will say some months we do better than others. But at least we have a benchmark, and I kind of play my business like a game of chess. I'm never too hard on myself. Like if we hit our goal or do over, like we'll do a quick congratulations, but move to the next month. And if we don't hit our goal, we're gonna be like, okay, next month we need to do better. But I always kind of feel like the way that I've done business, because I've run it like a game of chess, and I'm like, some months we win, some months we lose. Hopefully we win more than we lose. But if I take it too seriously or I get too down on myself, the downside is going to double and triple and quadruple, and then success will not happen. So we try to focus on exactly what makes us successful.
So now I'm trying to slip into your staff meeting here and think like one of your employees and your team members. On one day, they have Aaron Kerman, who is enjoy the process. Everything's fine. I don't have a goal. Now he's dating this super banker, and all of a sudden, here comes goal-centered Aaron. Yeah. What were some of those early conversations like when they heard the new Aaron?
So I think, everybody studies. People that are successful listen and study. I think a lot of people think it's almost cheesy, like goals. Here's what you need to do. We were like hammering our team, and our team has done probably 250 more in sales than last year. So we're hitting about 750 million this year in sales. Last year we did about 500 mil. So I think the goals have definitely been successful and efficient. I think that what we learned though was a lot of people need help in figuring out what their goal is. And a lot of people, our last team meeting, because we kept saying goals, 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 and we weren't seeing their goals. We literally made them write it out. So we gave them worksheets. What do you want to sell per month? What do you want to sell per year? What does that mean? Because there's implication. And it's not just a number. It's what's behind that number. What do you have to do to accomplish that number? And once you figure that out, no matter what business you're in, success will follow.
And do you feel like you have to do that with your staff? Isn't there a way that would be the path of least resistance where you give them a task, you send them out there? You're doing an education piece, which is coincidentally one of the things that brought us together, that attraction of that energy. But I'm curious, not every real estate agent is doing that.
No, I don't think, I think most people are not. But, look, I always try to say real estate is my background, it's what I do. But, salesmanship, like a good salesman can sell. If you look at CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, you'll have a guy that runs an airline, then runs a train, then goes to Microsoft. Good salesmanship and good leadership can be universal, right? And I think a lot of people that are just climbing the ranks, it's really easy to listen to and say, okay, I want to be here, but they don't know how to make it land. And so that formula, and I'm not talking about my staff, I'm actually talking about agents that work under me that are on my team, kind of need that push. And I always tell people, like, no matter what industry, no matter what business you're in, no matter where you want to go, write it out on the big picture and then break it down to a small picture so that you know that you can achieve that goal. And if you're not, at least you have a basis for where you want to go.
That's strong. What's the difference between selling a $50,000 apartment and a $40 million house?
Literally nothing other than the amount of money that's in the bank account. But the process, the system, the thought, it's literally the same. I've sold $80,000 properties, and I've sold the most expensive property in the world, right? And the mentality, everybody, no matter whether you're buying a $100 million house or whether you're buying a $300,000 condo or $200,000 house, that's a lot of money for anybody. And so the buyers are going to study, is it right? Does it make sense? Can I afford it? What's wrong with it? What's right with it? Why do I like it? The emotions are all the same. The systems are all the same. The process is all the same. It's just about the target. I built a luxury brand because that's our target. We target luxury buyers that are buying very expensive houses. But what people don't realize is if I targeted a different market, it would be really the same thing. And that's what we teach people. And so I always think that finding your niche is the most important, you know, and it goes in line with authenticity. Find what you're good at, find your people, and once you find your people, success will follow from there.
I wanted to ask you about that. It's specialization you talk so much about, and it's so fascinating. And I feel like that was something that I was really attracted to in our conversation, because you built a luxury brand, niche down, really focus. It's amazing, because from the outside you think that's going to really limit my customer pool. Yeah. And then it turns out to be exactly the opposite. Recently, I mentioned before we started recording, I've been preparing speakers who are going on talk shows to be communicating their very best. I didn't know that existed, Aaron. And all of a sudden now we're niching down, and I'm getting calls today. Like it's so counterintuitive. It almost freaks me out.
I don't know. I started, so my niche was different. And so I started and it happened by accident. I got fired from 2 jobs. I was at 2 brokerage companies. I messed up. They both fired me. And I had to go to this very small boutique. At the time, it was like an architectural company. So I was like, all right, this is what they do. I'll do it. So I built my name selling these architectural houses. And then people were like, oh, that guy sells cool houses. And then, famous people in art and fashion were like, oh, that guy sells cool houses. And then eventually I built it to big estates and luxury brand. But without that niche, I never would have been able to do it. And so once you have a niche or a specialty, you're destined for success, because the world is so big and the world is so global. The people are going to reach out to you. And there's so many people that want a niche. And I looked at the niche and I was like, God, everybody, the people that are buying, people think, who knows, everyone has a different definition of wealth. But I look at my clients that are buying 30, 40, 60, $100 million houses. And they're like the guy that started a rubber band that would bend. I mean, it's always the most random thing. I'm like, that just built you this multi-billion-dollar empire. And that's how I started to realize the niche is so important. And finding what you like, or what you're enthusiastic about, or what you really feel good about, that's how you will succeed.
It's interesting you say that. To drill down one level deeper, I think it can be really valuable for people to understand, when you think you have the niche, there's got to be some check and balance there, because otherwise, to my mind, so many people would be saying, well, if I'm going to be a writer, I want to be a pop novelist. And if I want to be a real estate agent, of course I want to sell to celebrities. What's that filter or checklist someone should go through to say, I think I have my niche, but I'm not sure?
Going back to the authentic self and finding your people. Everybody comes into my office every day and says, I want to be the biggest real estate agent, or I want to make $1 million+ a year. I mean, the statements are the same over and over again. Houses. Everybody says that, as they come into my office, and that's great. And I say, well, that's a great goal to accomplish, but you realize there's 8 people in the world that are selling those types of homes, and we hope that will be you, but that's not going to be you overnight. So let's figure out who you are first today. Let's build you. Let's get the track record, and we'll get you there. And so in real estate, because that's what I know. I tell people to specialize in an area, in a type of house, in a type of audience. A lot of my team, actually, I'm really honing on this, and I still don't have them where I want them. But, if somebody wanted to say, and this is not a great thing, but I specialize in couples getting a divorce. That could be a multi-billion-dollar real estate business. If somebody says, I want to specialize in this type of house, that also could be a multi-billion. So I think it's all about that niche and finding out, who you are and who the people that are going to relate to you the most. And that could be anything from people that go to temple or go to church to, the dirtier side of life. You want to go party? Those are your people. I don't judge. You will make money off of those people.
My wife, Dana, often says she would love to be a real estate agent. How does she know whether or not she'd be any good at it?
So I don't think you ever know until you try it. And I think that very few people look. I actually was a very good agent when I was young. It just came what came very natural for me was being a real estate agent and sales. I don't think it's that natural for most people. So that was a blessing. I think you could train yourself to get good at anything. But I don't think you know till you try, and I think you need to try. And a lot of people get in any business and go, ooh, that's not for me. Like, the glamorous side of our job is not as glamorous. You guys see us on, people see us on TV and they're like, oh my God, I can do that. Well, there's a lot of unglamorous work that we do every day, and until you're in the weeds, you won't know. An example of something that I was terrible at, I was really bad on TV. Like, I mean, really bad. Like, the first time I was on TV, CNBC, the president of CNBC said, that guy can never do TV ever again, get him off camera. And the producer, for whatever reason, like, took a liking to me and was like, let me try again. And I still think the first couple of years that I was doing like Secret Lives of the Super Rich and all these shows, I look at myself and I literally get uncomfortable because I'm so uncomfortable on camera, and it was not something I'm good at. But like anything else, with work and time and practice, you eventually get good, or at least decent.
One of my favorite writers, Malcolm Gladwell, wrote a book called The Tipping Point, and it's all about those moments where it went from X to Y, and usually there's a kind of a vertical slope, if you will. So you've spoken candidly about a tough childhood at times, speech impediment, not feeling comfortable in your own skin like so many of us felt. And then you said a few moments ago, being a real estate agent in sales always came natural to me. Yeah. So there's that chasm there. I'm looking for a moment in there where it tipped. Where did it tip? Because you put the hard work in, but then you said at some point that flywheel started going.
You're talking about when I got success, when in real estate?
Well, you said a moment ago you felt natural in real estate. That doesn't jive with me for a kid who felt like he was picked on. So there's got to be a dotted line in there that I'm missing.
Very weird. You know, I was always the kid out. I had this awful speech impediment. I couldn't say the word R, so I couldn't say my name. I had some identity issues. I wasn't out of the closet as a gay guy. I'm still dyslexic. I can't add. I'm horrible with mathematics. I had to cheat my way through school. For some reason, when I was a kid, I remember breaking into houses. No joke. I would break into houses when I was like 8, empty houses. I would pretend to be a real estate agent at 8, 7. I would ride my bike to these rich houses and break into. No joke. And I don't know how I had the balls to do that, but I was really scared, and I did. Because I lived in an area that had some wealth surrounding it. And I always just felt comfortable. And my mom went on with me. Funny enough, I brought my mom to one of my appointments when I was brand new. I was like 18, 19. And my mom came and she said, God, I've watched you, and it was like you've done this for 30 years. In real estate, I had the confidence. I had the knowledge. It was just something that was innate me. And looking back, it was lucky. Like, to be that young and to have that skill set is not every day, and it was a blessing. And many people don't have that luck. And I say, if they don't have it, then we have to work to get it, right? Then you have to work backwards and figure out what is natural. But that wasn't a very natural thing for me.
It's beautiful. I mean, it makes me think of so many people out there that might have a calling, might have a special skill that they may never find out about. And I feel like that is so great. You're living one life, and then you have that gift uncovered. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I could see. It's funny. I'm very good at seeing talent, both in my industry and not in my industry, because I get pitched to do a lot of investments, and a lot of people are pitching me things all the time. And for some reason, I have a really good skill. It's an intuition. A friend's son wanted to be a real estate agent. I met the guy this morning. He's going to be a genius. Like, the guy's so smart. He's so intuitive. He's going to make it. And that has also helped me in sales, because I'm very intuitive. So I'm able to, and I think everybody needs to learn that intuition. Is this person good? Is this person bad? Is their heart good? Because if somebody's good, you could do well with them. If somebody doesn't have great intentions, be aware. I'm not saying don't do it, but be aware. And where we go wrong, and I'm guilty of this, is we want things to work out sometimes. And so we don't listen to our intuition. And every time I don't listen to it, I say, I should have listened to my intuition. And
please, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, finish this sentence. I should sell my home if...
I should sell my home if I'm ready to make a change, a life change. If, homes are part of our existence daily, and life changes every day. Where we want to live changes, financial circumstances changes for up and down, marriages change, death happens, kids go to college. when people are ready for change is the time to sell at home.
How are people with change in your experience?
People don't like change. Funny, I was one of those people myself. I hated change. I remember I was doing pretty well at a company. This was when I was young, 20 years old. And the boss said, we want to give you this corner office. And I was working at this desk in this dark part of the office, surrounded by everyone. And I told the guy, I don't want to, no, I'm going to keep my dark, dingy desk because it's working for me. This desk is making me successful. And so growing up, I had this fear of change, fear of new cars were always the worst for me. If I had a good car, I'm not even talking about the brand, just if I was successful with a car, a watch, a thing, I would be afraid to touch it, change it. And so in younger years, it took me a lot to change. As I got older, I embrace change. I love change. I want change. I change when things are going perfect and great, still change. Because I think with change comes new challenges and new experiences. And even if it's not for the better sometimes, you'll work it out.
And I feel like that narrative's had to have helped you with clients who are resistant to sell.
Yeah, it is, because I love change now. And I listen, if it was up to me, and this isn't about making commission off people, I think people should be changing their environment. If you live in Los Angeles here and you don't live by the ocean and you could afford to, get a place at the ocean. Or you live by the ocean, get a place in the city. Like, for me, those energies and those vibes, because I always say one tweak can make a great life change. Sometimes it's such a small tweak. And that's the other thing about life. You know, people always look at things on such a big granular level, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it could be the smallest thing. I remember I was dating somebody and we had a really bad breakup. And this person wanted to be friends. And every time I saw the name, it just irked me and irritated me. But I knew the person was good, right? And so I was like, what can I do to fix this relationship in myself? So all I did was I changed the name from what I had it saved into a different name. And it was that simple. But when that new name popped up, I was like, hey, how are you? What's going on? I'm great. How are you? Like, the psychology behind the background was a totally different thing. And it was a new way of building a new relationship on an old relationship that had died.
Who's a name you have in your cell phone that would give us, oh my God, feelings?
I have hundreds of those names in my there's I don't say this to be arrogant or cocky, but tested, I can get to anybody with one phone call. Really, like, I can get to kings and queens and celebrities and CEOs. I'm really lucky in that I know some of the biggest people in the world, and I call them my friends, actually. I've never, how can I put this? People that are successful or famous or rich or not, for me, people are people. I don't care if you're successful. I don't care if you're just starting. Like, I want to get to know you. I want to understand, like, your job is understanding people and growing, helping people. I want to understand how people got to where they got to. And I've never been intimidated by money or fame, which I think is one of the reasons that I've been able to be so successful. I would meet some of the most famous people in the world, and I legitimately don't know who they are because I'm not that good with pop culture. But I think it helped because I was never intimidated by them. So I would just be super authentic. For
sure. You ever feel like someone's going to walk up behind you, tap you on the shoulder and say, Aaron, it's over. This is a dream. This is not something you have any business doing. It's over, my friend.
The child in me, the fearful child, when that comes, I have to block it. I would be unauthentic to say that sometimes that doesn't happen. Once in a while, you're having a bad day and you're like, God, am I going to make another $1? Am I going to be able to maintain that level? Sometimes do I want to maintain that level, because it's not easy. And when that happens, I check myself out and I do my best to ground myself. I meditate. I go to nature. I don't, if I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to work because that energy is going to translate into negativity anyway. So, but I'm really careful to check that. And if it's there, I do my best to figure out what's causing it and move it forward, because that energy is what gets stagnant.
You've been incredibly generous with your time. So let's close with this, Aaron. People are listening to this. They're on the treadmill. They're in their cars driving to work. At some point today, they're coming back home. They're going to walk in the door. The show's called 1% Better. Let's close with some ideas for people as they walk into their home.
Yeah.
What's the bang for their buck change they can make that's going to completely change their environment? It's going to make them feel immediately better. They're going to love where they live, and it's going to be kind of just not even realizing that it happened.
Are we talking about houses or life?
Whew. That's a beautiful one. I'd be not doing my job if I didn't ask for one of each bucket then.
For houses, it's super easy. When you're not living clean or cluttered, your brain gets unclear. And so I always tell, and this is rich or poor, medium, it doesn't matter. I always say live well, live clean, keep your space as clean as possible, live free of clutter, because that will help life. And the little details of a moment can help. If you, whether you're in a studio or whether you're in a multi-million-dollar house, flowers, little items of luxury can go a long way in people's mood and perception. And I think that helps to live a much better life. In life, that's a harder question. And your show is 1% better. And I'm going to say, based on the name of your show, I don't know about you, but I always think about what I can do better. Like what I did good and what I did not good. And I never dwell on what I didn't do good, but I want to recognize it. And then I want to do what I did good better, right? So I would pick the one thing that you think you can do better, the one habit, something that's bothering you, something that you're not doing, something that you could be doing, and just write it down and say, I'm going to do it better, or I'm going to stop doing it. If you have a habit of, drinking too much coffee, take that coffee down. I'm a coffee drinker. I realized I was up to 4 shots a day, sometimes 5. We're down to 3. We're knocking it out. We're still working on it. I'd love to get it down to one a day, 1 shot a day maybe, but I can do that better. And it doesn't have to be big. It could be big. If there's big life decisions that, if you're not happy in a marriage, try to fix it. Talk to your husband, wife. And if that doesn't work, it's okay to be authentic and say, this isn't working. Let's try to make it work. And if we can't make it work, sometimes failure is the best lesson. I mean, from every mistake I've ever made, I've learned. Every single mistake, and I've made so many mistakes, I can't even tell you, hundreds. I could give you books on mistakes. But from those mistakes, I would say I got to where I got to, and it's okay to make mistakes, and life would not be life if we don't. And so don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Where would you send my listeners to find out more about you and maybe help you and send you great vibes?
Well, I appreciate it. We need all the great vibes we can get. AaronKerman.com. I'm on Instagram, Aaron Kerman. Or our show is called Listing Impossible. And we hope to also send your viewers good vibes as well.
Aaron, thank you so much, man. This was generous. This was helpful. This was phenomenal.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope to see you real soon.